Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Malicious Compliance. Story 1. She must go on leave and I won't hear any excuses. So this happened a few years ago. I was a union delegate at a large firm. We had a manager called Karen, I've written about her before on this subreddit, who was appointed to her role by a director of the company. Let's call the director her uncle. Karen wasn't very clever. She hadn't finished high school and previously worked as a receptionist. She once told me 40 was half of 100. Karen is struggling in her job and basically does nothing. Her desk is a mess of paperwork. She also looks after all the small departments like records, security, stores, etc. If anyone takes on Karen, the director steps in and Karen gets a get out of jail card. There were a few occasions when Karen got yelled at by a manager for making costly mistakes and Karen was put on stress leave and manager got a warning. One of paralegals, Sally from records, comes to me to say she thinks she's in trouble. Sally recently had 6 weeks leave. She was forced on leave due to having too much annual leave. Once you have more than 6 weeks you are forced to go on leave until you have no more than 2 weeks. Sally tells me that HR and Karen enforced her on leave and she submitted a paper leave form the same day Karen was put on stress leave. Sally went on leave, came back the same day as Karen. Sally's leave wasn't docked. She just got paid as per regular. While Karen was away they replaced her with Paula, who found Karen hadn't really any work for 7 months. I found Paula and asked casually about what happened. She told me on day 1 she threw all the paperwork out and started over again. So I attended a meeting with Sally, Karen, and HR knowing there isn't a record of Sally's leave. Karen starts the meeting on a verbal rampage about not doing as she told Sally to do. Sally needs to go on leave now or else, and she doesn't want to hear excuses. I interject at this point and point out to HR that Karen behavior is unacceptable, but we agree, KMC, as Sally has over 8 weeks leave now, she will go on leave effective tomorrow. Sally submits a leave form to Karen, and we leave the meeting. Sally leave is reduced on her pay slip this time. No one questioned a thing. Story 2. Oh, you want to lie? I don't know if I should post this here or in petty revenge, but I'll do both. I, 25F, have a very tight-knit but large friend group. We're all pretty connected and see each other multiple times a week, and all live in the same neighborhood. One of our friends has a passion for lying. We all know it. So I find out he has been telling the guy I hook up with and many others that he also hooks up with me. He has a beautiful GF I'm mutuals with. I sent her a message on Instagram saying hey _______, I'm so sorry but I have to tell you. I had no idea you and ________ were still together. We've been sleeping together. I screenshot it and sent it to him, saying that multiple people have passed the news to me that we're fucking. 25 minutes and 60 missed calls later. I thought we were playing the lying game. Story 3. Can't take my drink at my desk. Okay, I'll take more breaks then. I'll start with the obligatory sorry for the formatting on mobile and sorry if I make any mistakes. English isn't my first language. So, I work in a hardware store, kinda like Home Depot but smaller, in Belgium. I'm in charge of electricity products, lights and appliances, kitchen modeling, we also make kitchen cabinets, and plumbing. When my coworker isn't working, 3 days a week as our schedule don't overlap frequently. I have kept an habit of having my bottle of Coke or other soda at my desk, hidden from view. We have a small desk with a computer to manage orders, inventory, and Googling parts we may not be familiar with. So I drink from my bottle when needed, and if a customer needs me, I'll put it away mid-sip and come back after helping him to finish my sip. Recently, our manager told us to not have any drink or food at our desk because it's not a good image of the store, because you know, what will happen if the customers discover that we are humans and need to drink to live right? I didn't follow this instruction at first because my desk is at the opposite side of the store compared to the lunchroom and I don't want to walk there every 20-30 minutes just to drink. 2 days ago the manager noticed I was heading to my desk with my bottle in my hand and said I had to put it in the lunchroom and go whenever I had to drink to take a break and drink. So I did just that. Instead of losing 10 seconds to drink like I was doing for the past 2 years, I now take 2 minutes to walk to the lunchroom, take a 5 minutes break to drink and relax and again 2 minutes to go back to my area every 20-30 minutes. I'm already looking for another job because I can't take the micromanagement anymore. This is not the only dumb rule that he enforced, I could fill an entire book. Other rules are, do not print quotes, instead write the reference to the quote on a little piece of paper that the customer can give to the cashier, arrive 10 minutes early so you can be at your desk at 8h30 instead of coming in at 8h25 but not paid for that time. If something is broken and need to be taken out of the inventory you have to ask him if you can do it, even for a light bulb, any inventory has to go by him but if he is busy you lose an hour just trying to inventory 10 items. This job was cool until I got this boss, honestly. Edit. I've seen some of you saying that the rule is normal, I didn't say it wasn't. What I think is absurd is the fact that I've worked for him for 2 years and he only started the rule recently and enforcing it on a few people only. I've got colleagues that keep their drinks, soda included, at their desk, but he doesn't say anything to them. Story 4. A six-pack by any other name. I was in the army way back when the internet was new and computer illiterate commanding officers had their clerks print out emails so they could read them. As a young private, after work me and my buddies would often stop by the Class 6 store on post, an army liquor store, to buy beer after we got off duty. One day me and my buddy grabbed a 12-pack of beers on the way to the barracks. When we got to the barracks, we had to pass the CQ, charge of quarters, basically a guard posted at the entrance to the barracks. The CQ that day was a specialist, E4, who I really didn't get along with. He was mad he had to pull CQ duty and he was always trying to find everyone's stupid infractions. He had taken a special interest in me for some reason. The CQ told us we could only bring 6 beers into the barracks. Since he was an E4, and outranked myself, E2, and my friend, E3, I was very respectful when I asked him what he meant. He pulled out a 3-ring binder with the barracks SOP, standard operating procedure, and pointed to the section that said a soldier could bring only 6 beers into the barracks. Interesting. I thought about handing my friend 6 beers and taking 6 myself to get around this stupid rule, but this guy would log that we opened the 12-pack of beer outdoors in the logbook and we'd get in trouble anyway. But then I had an interesting idea. I thanked the CQ and told my friend to come on. We walked back to Class 6 and got a refund on the beer. Then we bought 6 40-ounce bottles of malt liquor. We went from 144 fluid ounces of beer with 12 12-ounce cans to 240 fluid ounces of malt liquor in 6 40-ounce bottles. When we returned to the barracks, the CQ wanted to inspect our package. He just about hit the ceiling when he saw I was carrying 6 40-ounce bottles. CQ, I told you can only bring 6 beers into the barracks. Me, there are 6 beers in here. I can count them off if you like. I then proceeded to count them before he could respond. Flustered, he allowed us to proceed. The next morning the first sergeant, highest-ranking non-commissioned officer in the company, called me to his office. He yelled at me for about 5 full minutes before he calmed down long enough to tell me I was getting an Article 15, non-judicial punishment, roughly the military equivalent of a plea bargain. Why? Because I violated his SOP by bringing 6 40-ounce beers into his barracks. That was when I heard the CO, commanding officer, a captain in the next office over, call for the first sergeant. First sergeant jumped up and went straight to the CO's office. I strained to hear them talking for a few minutes. From what I could make out, they were reviewing the SOP and comparing to the CQ log. But their voices got louder as they started expressing different views and I could hear that part clearly. First sergeant, but it says clearly you can have a 6-pack of beers. CO, first sergeant, it says you can have 6 beers. First sergeant, but it's obvious it means 6 cans of beer. CO, no first sergeant, it's not obvious. Send that soldier back to work. We're done here. A couple of seconds later I could feel the sheer anger as First Sergeant stormed back into his office and bellowed, "Get the fuck out of here." So I did. Story 5. Table of Karens make my waiter training a living nightmare. A malicious compliance story. Back in 2014 I was hired to work on a cruise ship. I started off as a lowly restaurant steward, busting tables and mopping floors in the buffet. After a few months I was promoted to back waiter and was moved to the main dining hall. I quickly caught on to the back waiter duties. My front waiter, who we'll call Bert, not his real name, took notice of my hard work. After a couple of weeks in my new position, Bert told me that it's only a matter of time before I get promoted to front waiter, and he wanted to start training me on how to be one. So he told me to shadow him when the next group of passengers were seated in our section so I can observe how he did his front waiter duties. Unfortunately for us, the next group of passengers seated in our section was an eight-top of Karens. Bert and I welcomed them to the restaurant. They were friendly at first, and the head Karen, an older, heavier-set man, asked, "There is a show in the main theater we want to see that begins in about an hour. Is it possible for us to get our dinners, eat it, and get to the show on time?" To which Bert says, "Absolutely, depending on what you order." After looking over the menu, the Karens were ready to place their order, and 5 out of 8 of them wanted the New York steak, the one single menu item that took the longest to cook. Bert told them this, and that if they all wanted to order the New York steak, that there is no guarantee that we can get them their dinners fast enough to eat and be able to get the show on time. Bert suggested alternative dishes that we could get out much quicker, but the Karens refused to change their orders. Bert read the order back to the Karens and they all confirmed that it was correct. "This is important for later." Bert handed me the ticket and I ran back to the kitchen to assemble their meals. My first stop was the New York steak counter, and to my horror, there was a line a mile long of waiters waiting to drop off their tickets. Just so you know, this ship has a max capacity of about 3,500 passengers. The main dining hall seats nearly 1,000 people, and I have never seen the New York counter as busy as it was this night. It seemed like everyone and their mothers were ordering the New York steak. I would have to wait at least 20 minutes just to drop off my ticket, and God knows how long afterwards till the cook got to my ticket in order to cook them. With the wait time, and juggling the other tables Bert and I had to wait on in our section, I knew there was no chance the Karens can get their meals and make it to the show on time. So I rushed out to Bert, told him what the ETA was on the New York steaks, and that he needed to tell the Karens that they needed to change their order, otherwise they will miss their show. Bert relayed my message to them. He came back to me and said that they still refused to change their order. Bert shrugged his shoulders and said, "Bert, well, we did all that we could to try and convince them to change their orders so they can make it to the show they wanted to see, but they refused to change it. So if they miss their show, they miss it, and it will be their fault." I did my best to get their meal as quickly as possible, while also waiting on the other tables in our section. Sure enough, the Karens missed the start of the show, and they were pissed. They demanded to speak to the restaurant manager. They fabricated multiple lies about the crappy service they received, saying that we were lazy, incompetent, purposely dragged our feet, and lied about how long they were really waiting for their meals. They said they were waiting over an hour since they got their appetizers when it was only 50 minutes since they were seated in our section at most. Bert and I told the manager our side of the story. He believed us, said he would try and calm the Karens down, but told us to do our best to get the Karens their meals as quickly as possible so we can get them out of the restaurant ASAP. Finally the meals were ready. I bring them out to the Karens and hoped that this would be the end of the fiasco. Unfortunately, it wasn't. 2 of the female Karens called Bert and I back to the table and complained, "Our steaks are rare. We ordered well done." Bert and I huddled. He looked over his notepad where he had the 2 ladies' steaks written down as rare. He asked me if I heard them say they wanted rare steaks when we took their order earlier on, and I nodded yes. Bert approached them and said, "Bert, ladies, my back waiter and I both heard you 2 say you wanted rare steaks. I read the order back to you. and you both said that the order was correct. But the Karens responded, we've never ordered rare steaks in our lives. You two messed up. Take these back, we don't want them. We want brand new steaks. So Bert hands me the steaks, and told me to go back into the kitchen and order 2 well-done New York steaks on the fly, which is restaurant lingo for it's an emergency and we need this order right now. So I rushed back into the kitchen, the New York steak counter was still busier than it's ever been. I rushed to the cook and asked for 2 well-done New York steaks on the fly. The cook angrily yells at me, no one is getting anything on the fly tonight. You get your ass to the back of the line and wait your turn like everyone else. At this point I began to panic, it was going to be at least another 40 minutes if not longer for the 2 Karens to get their well-done steaks. In an alternate reality this would be a r/malicious compliance story where I make the Karens wait the near hour-long time for them to get their new steaks as they requested. But I didn't want Bert to deal with the Karens any longer than he had to, and the restaurant manager did tell me to do my best to get them their meals ASAP so we can get them out of the restaurant as quickly as possible. So cue the malicious compliance. The Karens wanted well done, they're going to get well done. There were microwaves in the kitchen. I flipped the steaks over to hide the previously made cut marks, threw them into the microwave and nuked them till they were well done. I brought them back out to the Karens and prayed to every deity I could think of that they wouldn't realize what I have done. Fortunately they didn't. The Karens ate their meal in complete silence, giving Bert and I the dirtiest glares while doing so, and stormed off when they were finished. Once they left I told Bert what I did. It took him a moment to process what I told him, and he finally said, Bert, under normal circumstances, I would be very upset with you, and I strongly suggest that you never do what you just did ever again. However, these aren't normal circumstances. Those people were rude, unreasonable, liars, and they didn't even tip. So you know what, fuck them. I'm glad they missed their fucking show. In the near 2 years I've worked on that ship I've dealt with many Karens, stories for another day, but I'll never forget this one. Just a reminder to everyone reading this story to please be kind to your waiters. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.